Doctor Who. Tales from Time. The Sin Eaters. Written and narrated by Kenny Colliver. It all started when a woman in distress met a man under pressure. The year was 1791, America, New York to be exact, and Miss Maria Reynolds has been mistreated by her husband. Beaten, cheated and abandoned with barely enough cash to last her to the end of the week. And what better person to turn to in her financial aid than a congressman, specifically the Treasury Secretary. A smartly dressed congressman was moved by this woman's tale and offered the poor woman a loan of his own spare cash. Alexander Hamilton, that was his name. The sleep-deprived gentleman needed something to help him take his mind off his congressional duties. The bags under his eyes made him look older than he actually was. After a week of self-isolation in his lonely office, he offered to accompany Miss Reynolds home. After all, it was only a block away. And so, after a pleasant walk through the warm summer night of colonial America, the two strangers arrived. "You're too kind, sir," she softly thanked Hamilton. But before he could head on home back to his desk, Miss Reynolds escorted him into her home. Into her bedroom. The quiet night gives way to the vibrant morning, as Alexander leaves the house of the seductive stranger that persuaded him to stay the night. His head was filled with regret. How could I do this? He thought to himself. How could I do this to my beloved Eliza? She'd be so heartbroken as she ever knew. Alexander walked home in last night's clothes, wanting this whole night to be forgotten by all involved. Little did he know of the spectre-like being that walked into our dimension through a blindingly bright tear in our reality. What emerged was a translucent, shadow-like being with the shape of a dark and distorted imitation of a human being. Its face was a blank silver canvas. Despite having no visible eyes, it intently gazed upon Mr. Hamilton from afar as he walked home. The subtle tilt of its head indicated that not only did it know about his night of passion with Miss Reynolds, not only did he know what the two were doing together, but it was also actively judging him for it. 1798, August 25th. Sure enough, word did indeed spread about Hamilton's misdeeds. Oh, not the affair itself, sort of, but rather the money Alexander used to keep it a secret. Rumours had spread among Hamilton's political rivals and the newspapers that supported them. A Treasury Secretary, using the people's taxpayers' money for his own shady affairs? The headlines write themselves. Eventually, pressure mounted, and Alexander, in an attempt to clear his name of embezzling government funds, published an editorial admitting to his affairs with Miss Reynolds, and how he also used his own personal money from his own paychecks in order to pay her husband James, which he did in order to keep James quiet after he threatened to expose Hamilton himself. It's been a year since Hamilton published that pamphlet, and his reputation hasn't recovered since. A pariah in his hometown, an embarrassment to his political party, with a broken marriage left in the aftermath. On one quiet night home, the lonely Hamilton walks his way home to an unloving household. And yet, before he can even unlock his front door, something emerges from the wooden surface. An expressionless face leers and stares at the startled man. The ghost-like being phases through the door as Hamilton paces backwards in sheer terror. The creature's face was coated with a reflective chrome-like surface that stood out amongst the figure's dark, shadow-like form. "What are you?" Hamilton asked, frightfully pacing backwards. The ghostly being had no mouth, and yet it spoke anyway. "I can offer you a pardon," it whispers. "And all you have to do, Mr. Hamilton, is to take my hand." At that very same moment, Hamilton is tackled to the ground by a tall man in a well-tailored suit. "Whew! That was a close one, wasn't it?" said the British stranger, wiping some dirt off his striped blue shirt. Okay, not the best introduction I know, but when I see someone in need, I just can't help myself, he rambled apologetically. The two men stood up, Hamilton being clearly annoyed with the man. I'm the doctor, by the way, said the stranger, tilting his trilby hat. Hamilton hesitantly shook the hand of the enthusiastic stranger. Thank you, sir. Yes. The two then turned their attention to the spectre, looming in front of Hamilton's house. The doctor looked at the silver-faced being with immense curiosity. Ooh, now that's interesting. The doctor gazed with fascination. I'm sorry, do you know what this thing is? Asked Hamilton. Nope, said the doctor. But what I do know is that thing, it's here for you, he continued, looking back at Hamilton with a concerned look. Hamilton was too nervous to ask why this thing was here. The two men watched as this incorporeal being multiplied itself into 7 identical yet different versions of itself. Run! The doctor yelled at the top of his lungs, dragging the helpless Hamilton down the street. The 7 beings drifted after them, flowing past the houses like a leaf on the breeze. Where are you taking me? The American asked. The two continued to run. Listen to me, Alexander, these beings are from another world, the doctor explained. Hamilton heard this and didn't even question it. Well, of course these demons aren't from around here. No being could walk through doors like that, argued Hamilton. The doctor leads him into a clearing, where a blue wooden box sits in the centre. The two catch their breath. So, what do we do now, Mr... Hamilton realised something. The doctor never actually gave him his name. Oh, just the doctor, the Englishman responded. And from your accent, it's clear that you're not from around here either, the American asked inquisitively. It may have been a few years since the Americans won their independence from the British, but for people like Hamilton who fought in the war for said freedom, they hadn't forgotten so easily. Look out! Hamilton shouted, as the 7 spectres began surrounding the two men. Doctor, you said you'd come here to help. They're getting closer! The doctor takes out a key on a chain. It's for the phone box. He then goes inside. Where are you going? Hamilton demanded an answer. He then rushed after the doctor, who was going inside the phone box. That's when Hamilton thought to himself, if these creatures can go through a wooden door, it can easily reach the doctor inside that wooden box. At least that's what Hamilton thought. Alexander rushes inside into the TARDIS, shocked by the enormously large room contained within such a confined space. The man was blown away by this. He didn't even register the doctor asking him to close the doors. And so, they shut the beings out. All 7 of them tried to phase their hands through the wooden surface of the TARDIS, but they each found themselves repelled by the energy of the shield that surrounds the TARDIS. Hamilton listens to the screeching that goes on outside. Well, we're safe in here, right? He asked the doctor hesitantly. Meanwhile, he stands by the console in the centre of the room. So far, yeah, the doctor replies, fully sure of himself. The more Hamilton moved around the enormous white room, the impossibility of it all continues to rattle inside his head. How? How could a room of this size fit into a confined space that small? The doctor, meanwhile, checks to see if the man he travelled back in time in order to save was doing okay or not. I'm fine, he replied. I'm fine. It's just this... What is this place? It's called the TARDIS, the doctor explained. And yes, it's bigger on the inside, he said with a grin on his face. Back on the outside, the 7 identical spectres surrounded the blue box in a circular formation. they found themselves unable to go through the double doors on the front of the TARDIS. In fact, the ship itself was able to prevent almost anything from getting inside. But the energy of the Spectre was just enough in order to put their translucent hands through the exterior shell of the TARDIS in the same way a person would put their hand through a tub of water. The room's bright lights began to flicker as the screen on the console turned to static. No, 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 no! The Doctor panicked. The two men rushed to the console to see what's wrong. The Doctor instinctively hits the console, hoping that will fix the problem. The picture returns on screen to show the face of one of the Spectres. There was only one face on screen, and yet all 7 of them spoke all at once. "This doesn't concern you," it spoke through the TARDIS communication systems in a domineering tone. "Is it in here?" Hamilton asked, nervously. "Nope, it's still out there," replied the Doctor, "and it wants a word with us." The Spectre repeated itself, addressing the Doctor. Its forceful tone echoed throughout the speakers embedded in the console, echoing throughout the room. "This doesn't concern you, Time Lord." Hamilton didn't know what that term meant, but even he could tell that the Spectre didn't want to talk to this British stranger. It wanted to talk to him, personally. Hamilton was hesitant as he approached the console. "You came here looking for me, didn't you?" he said, asking the otherworldly being on the digital screen. "Mr. Hamilton," the Spectre said, "I've come to offer you a pardon." Alexander asked again, "Who am I addressing?" The creature began to speak with a calm and welcoming tone. "We are beings of forgiveness. We deal in absolutions. We are the eaters of sins." This intrigued Hamilton, who was hooked on every word said by the angelic-like being. "Now hang on a sec," the Doctor spoke up. "You said you came here looking for this man to offer him a pardon. A pardon for what?" he asked again, demanding an answer. The Sin Eater continues. "You are a man of great intelligence and determination, Alexander Hamilton. You fought for your country's independence. The man who helped shape its laws and forged the economy of what will become one of the world's most powerful nations from here on out." The Doctor interjects once more. "I feel like there's going to be a but in that sentence somewhere." And just like that, the Spectre's silver face turns dark. "Your legacy is tainted with sin, Mr. Hamilton," said the Sin Eater. Its voice turned dark along with its face. Alexander looked into the empty void of the Sin Eater's vacant face and sees the damning events of the past 2 years flash before his eyes. His night of passion with Mariah Reynolds, the extortion letter from her husband, the reputation meltdown after his detailed public confession, even the mix of sadness and content from his beloved ex-wife Eliza, especially after she heard the news the first time for herself. All of these moments and more came flashing before Hamilton's eyes within seconds. Alexander couldn't bear to look at the screen, and yet it was as if something was forcing him to watch. Something was forcing him to go through all that pain once more. The Doctor realizes that this being is physically forcing Hamilton to watch no matter how hard he cried. "Please make the vision stop!" All the while the Sin Eater kept scolding the poor man, its harsh tone getting more aggressive and condescending as it continues. "Your reputation is destroyed by your adulterous ways, your name stained with disloyalty. This will be your legacy, Alexander Hamilton." And just like that, the poor man is free to move again. The vision of his past had ended. The Doctor goes to comfort Hamilton, who falls to the floor. Tears start rolling down his eyes. "Alex, are you okay? Alex?" the Doctor asked. Hamilton was too shocked to respond. but nevertheless, he had to ask the Sin Eater this one question. "Oh, Spirit, why? Why would you show me all these terrible things I've done? Are you here to torture me?" The Sin Eater's face was expressionless, but its original welcoming tone returned to its more calming demeanor. "We can do the exact opposite. We are here to right these sins. Purify your tainted legacy. We are here to save you." The Doctor doesn't buy this for a second. He didn't know what this thing was here to do, or why it was here, or what its plans really were for Mr. Hamilton. But he knew this thing was lying out of its shiny silver face. "Alex, don't listen to him," the Doctor instructed. But Hamilton was captivated by its dark yet heavenly voice. "We can forgive these offences. We are here to help you. We feed upon sins as we erase them from time itself." And just like that, something in the Doctor's mind clicks. "Erase?" Hamilton asked curiously, "as in you'll erase everyone's memory of what I did?" As the conversation goes on, the Doctor gets more worried and more anxious. He was ready to end this conversation right now. The Doctor starts subtly moving towards the console of the TARDIS. He was ready to take off at any moment, in the hopes of leaving the Sin Eaters behind. "We will feast upon your sins and remove them. That is, if you accept our offer," continued the Sin Eater. "If so, you will wake up in a world where you never met Miss Reynolds." Hamilton, in an almost trance-like state, slowly makes his way towards the doors. He was willing to take their offer. "Everything that you lost will be yours again, and all you have to do is to let us in, and to take my hand." The Doctor watches Hamilton make his way slowly towards the front doors. And before the statesman could even touch the handles of the white wooden doors, "Oh, no you don't!" the Doctor yelled, flicking the flight lever on the TARDIS console. And just like that, the blue police box fades away into the time vortex, leaving the Sin Eaters behind in America. The TARDIS now flies through the time vortex. Meanwhile, inside, Hamilton was demanding answers from this stranger. "What did you do?" "Left those things behind us," the Doctor replied. Hamilton was still upset. "Take me back, Doctor." "I want to take his deal. Take me back!" "I can't let you do that. It's not safe," the Doctor responded, more focused on piloting the TARDIS. "Oh, I see how it is," said Hamilton. "You know that this creature can change the past. That's why you're here, isn't it?" he demanded an answer. The Doctor paused, the first time he looked at Hamilton since the TARDIS took flight. "Yes," he admitted. "Yes, I didn't know what this creature was exactly or how it really can alter history. But yes, I did come here to America to stop it from doing so." "Well, take me back now, Doctor," Hamilton demanded. "Just listen to me," the Doctor said through gritted teeth. "Because everything the Sin Eater is offering you is entirely for its own gain." Hamilton was losing patience with the Doctor. "How? How does rewriting my life so that no one will see me as an unfaithful husband benefit that thing in any way?" The Doctor barely moved a facial muscle as Hamilton shouted in the Doctor's face. Without a change in expression, he flicked a switch on the console. The room briefly shook, indicating that the TARDIS has now landed. Wherever he was taking Hamilton, the TARDIS had arrived, at a completely new destination from where they originally were. "Take a look," the Doctor said, pointing at the double doors. The TARDIS was in a completely new location. It sits in the middle of a museum exhibit. It was shrouded in darkness, and all the visitors and all its staff had already gone home. Hamilton steps out of the blue police box, perplexed about how a large wooden structure like this had suddenly moved to this strange new place. His head was full of questions. What is this place? How did this box get in this room? And where are those mirror-faced beings? The Doctor follows Hamilton out. With a flick of the wrist and a press of his sonic screwdriver, The lights come up. This, my dear friend, is the Smithsonian Museum of History in Washington, DC, the doctor explained. And the year is currently 2015. This surprised Hamilton. The doctor added, "Now, I'm gonna need you to be a bit quiet as we have technically broken in," he said with a cheeky grin on his face. The exhibit that the two were in was about the American Revolution, the war that gained the country's independence from England. Hamilton recognized everything on display. Mannequins wearing the uniforms that he and his fellow soldiers wore together as they fought in the trenches. Old guns rusting away behind glass displays. Maps, letters and documents that were written by Hamilton himself. "Any of this looking familiar?" asked the doctor. "Of course. I was there." Hamilton recollects his old war days, all as if it was yesterday. "I fought alongside Washington himself. We led the Battle of Yorktown together," he says to himself, remembering his walk across the aftermath of the battlefield. On this, the day that ended the war. The faces of the dead and the injured never left his mind. "Speaking of Washington," the doctor said, pointing out to a display of the Founding Fathers. People Alexander worked alongside with during the war and afterwards in order to start this brand new nation. He even sees a portrait of himself back in his prime, grey hair and all. It was painted not long after he was elected Treasury Secretary. But Alexander knew something was wrong with this display. He saw a placard at the bottom. Carved into it was his birth and his death date. Alexander Hamilton, born January 11th, 1755. Died July 12th, 1781. "What?" Hamilton said with a worried look on his face. The doctor goes to comfort this confused man. "What is this? This is all wrong!" he proclaimed. Hamilton had already met this strange Englishman 10 years before the date printed on that portrait. "I don't understand. They claimed they could change the past. Is this what they do?" The doctor chimed in so that he could calm Hamilton down. "Indeed it is," he said with a stern tone. "They have seen your future, your whole life, and they have travelled back in order to find you." Time travel didn't mean much to Hamilton, but he is well educated and an exceptionally good listener. At least enough to follow along with what the doctor is trying to tell him. So, if the spirit really can change and alter events of the past, then all this, everything here, is the future that will trail on afterwards? The doctor was actually rather impressed with how well this man from the past has managed to caught on with the workings of time travel. But now was not the right time to be proud. "I'm afraid so. Like they said, they will make a new future. You just won't be involved." The doctor comforted this American through the bad news. "But that's why I'm here. I saw this portrait, I saw the date, I saw the inaccuracies. This cannot be just a simple misprint. I knew something was wrong with time," the doctor said, explaining to Hamilton in a reassuring manner. "I came here to stop them. I needed to put things right." All of a sudden, a bright light emerges through Hamilton's portrait. The signature, it has found them. It has travelled from the past of colonial America all the way to modern day America in order to find him. It grabs Alexander by his lapels, dragging him through the portal it created in order to get to this time and place. "No!" the doctor yelled, determined to save this man, as he grabs onto Alexander's arm. The two men are dragged through the painting and into another dimension. The two men found themselves in a strange new location. A blood-red hallway with no start nor end point. The walls were lined with archways, each one trailing off into a completely different hallway, similar to the first one, just as long and just as endless. Each one with more hallways branching off of each other, going on endlessly. "What is this place?" Hamilton questioned nervously. He wondered if the creature had finally killed him, and that this was hell. He stared into the infinitely expanding plain. Not even the doctor could tell where they were. "Where are we? Is this hell? He asked. I don't know, but I can tell you this is definitely not hell. It's way too dark here. They were then confronted by the Sin Eater that brought them to this strange new place. Ah! Hello again. I presume that this is your domain? Asked the Doctor. The Sin Eater turned his attention to Hamilton once more. It tried to once more persuade Hamilton onto its offer. Please don't run. We only seek to redeem your soul. The Doctor rudely interrupted. Yeah, we're not falling for that anymore. Hamilton piped in. The museum piece. The date on it. It stated that I would die after meeting Miss Reynolds. Is that right? Asked Hamilton. How is this redemption? And yet, the Sin Eater reacted indifferently. Your legacy will survive. The people who you wronged will no longer have any grievances against you, it continued. And all your sins stem from your night of passion with Miss Maria Reynolds, it further explained. And so, the Doctor has finally figured out the meaning behind it all, as he starts explaining to Hamilton that this Sin Eater is a temporal being. Oh, not just in the sense that it can easily move from one point in time to the other, but also in the sense that it alters people's personal timelines for its own benefit. Much like the weeping angels of old. They remove people and beings from time, so that they can feed upon the days they should have had, but didn't. Everything became clear to Hamilton. The Sin Eater didn't care about his life, it didn't care about his reputation, it didn't even care about his soul. It was just there to feed whatever desires that it had. Hamilton wasn't a person in need of saving to it, it was a meal. You must choose, the Sin Eater demanded. Your sacrifice will preserve your good name throughout history. And despite what Hamilton knew what the creature would do to him, he looked kinda tempted to take the Spectre's offer, to take the Spectre's hand. Even after everything he has seen and heard today, he thought maybe life would be better for Eliza if she never knew about her husband's adulterous nights away from home. He could spare his family and his colleagues the negative reputation by removing himself from the chain of events that has ruined the life of himself, his friends, and his family. Don't listen to him, Alexander. Don't throw away your life like this, pleaded the Doctor. Think about your family, your wife, your children. They'll need you. All throughout your life, all throughout their lives, they'll need you, continued the Doctor. You have done so many amazing things throughout your life. An orphan immigrant who had nothing and raised his way to the top, worked his way to political success. That is amazing! You fought for your country and led them to victory. You helped build the foundation of a brand new country, a brand new government. Unlike everything else from the rest of the world at the time, your story will inspire the creation of one of the greatest musical soundtracks of all time. As the Doctor talked, Hamilton thought about what he was saying. Especially about his accomplishments through life, both professionally, politically, and personally. His mind went thinking back to Eliza, his beloved, all alone if he were to die on the timeline showed to him by that British stranger, his children without a father. Please, Hamilton, I know you've done bad things in your life. Just, please, don't throw your life away. You still have enough of a chance to fix your mistakes without these creeps getting involved. You can fix this. I know it won't be easy, but please, whatever you need to do, it's a better way out than this. The Sin Eater waited patiently, and just like that, Hamilton shouted it in his reflective face. No deal! I have thought about your bargain and I refuse. The Doctor has a growing smile on his face. Meanwhile, the Sin Eater starts getting angry. Its silver face turns bright crimson. It needed to feed on sins to survive. And a consenting participant was all that it needed, right there in its grasp. A deal must be made, it shouted back. Then take me in his place, proclaimed the Doctor. Alexander went over to stop the fool. Alexander, you're too important to die at this point, said the Doctor. Your country still needs you, and soon your family will need you too. Hamilton was shocked. You take my place? You do that for me? Without hesitation, the doctor looked into Hamilton right in the eyes and said, I have to. And it would be my honor to do so. Hamilton was stunned by this noble gesture. The Sin Eater thought it over, as it divided itself into 7 identical copies of itself, each of them surrounding the doctor. We accept your exchange. As they make their way around him, he encourages them to do whatever they were planning to do to Hamilton to himself. Well then, if you really do feed on people's sins, then oh boy, you've hit the jackpot, proclaimed the doctor, as Hamilton is whisked away back to his own time. Now listen here, I have lived a very, very long life of many regrets, the doctor ranted. An infinite number of days I wish I could take back, and so, I give them all to you. The central Sin Eater confronts the doctor, who looks into the Spectre's mirror-like face. As the Sin Eaters stare into the doctor's eyes, his very soul. That's it! You can see my past, can't you? Now look at it all! All the people I failed to save, all the worlds that burned at my hand. The Sin Eater watched every sinful act the doctor had committed throughout time and space, all happening before its eyes. The destruction of Skaro, the slaughter of Skull Moon, the charges he led during the Time War, the siege of Trenzalore. So many sins, so much death, so much suffering, all at your hand, the Sin Eater said, relishing in what it had just witnessed. An eternity's worth of sins and regrets. They don't call me the oncoming storm for nothing, said the doctor casually. We can rectify these sins. Now all you must do, Time Lord, is to take my hand, offered the Sin Eater. And so the doctor forcefully grabs the Sin Eater's skeletal-like hand. At that moment, red and yellow energy was flowing from the doctor's body into the Sin Eater. The glowing light of the doctor's regrets and misdeeds nourished the ghostly-like creature at first. But then, more energy started to stream into the Sin Eater's body. And then more. And then more. And then more. More energy filled the Sin Eater. It was too overwhelming even for a being as old as this. It tried to absorb as much of the ancient Time Lord as it could, but it was visibly struggling. The doctor began smiling in a gloating sort of way. Oh, what's the matter? Don't you have the appetite for a sinner like me? The doctor yelled at the creature, whose satisfied hunger started to turn into an ever-growing sense of agony. The creature screams louder and louder as the doctor disappears into a blindingly bright light which fills the hallway. Then there was silence. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Alexander Hamilton finds himself where he was before, outside his house. His eyes recover from the blinding light, as everything seems to be as it was. The confused man looks for the doctor, but he was nowhere to be found. He did it, Alexander thought. He really did sacrifice himself for me. He stood there as if to mourn the man. If you're out there, Doctor, thank you. Whoever you are. And so, Hamilton went inside, vowing to never forget the actions of this weird stranger who travelled across time and space just to save him. And he was eternally grateful for it. The year was 1801, and Alexander Hamilton visits the grave of his recently deceased son, Philip. He was only 19 years old. Hamilton wasn't even 50, and yet, after days of walking the length of the city on his own, his hair had turned bright grey. And who does he see kneeling before his son's tombstone? Eliza Schuyler Hamilton, his former wife and Philip's mother. He stands behind her. She knows he's here, but says nothing. The yard was silent. I know, I don't deserve you, Eliza, and I don't deserve your forgiveness, said Hamilton to his former lover, a tear forming around his eye. But he is my son as well, and I would trade my life for his. So just for a moment, let me stand by your side," he pleaded, "and that would be enough." She didn't say a word to him, but with a tilt of the head, this told Hamilton that he could stay, and she let him do so. The two stand in the rain together, mourning the loss of their son. Meanwhile, on the other side of the graveyard, a tall, floppy-haired British man in a well-tailored suit steps out of a blue box marked Police Public Call Box. He watched as Hamilton kneels by Eliza's side, as this broken woman subtly takes the hand of this lonely man. The raindrops drip off the trim of the doctor's trilby hat, as the two walk home together in the pouring rain, hand in hand. Forgiveness.